They say love hurts, but that's not true. Real love, doesn't hurt. What hurts is betrayal. What hurts is dishonesty. What hurts is staying where you're not valued. What hurts is the lesson that you didn't see coming. Love itself is not the wound. It's the bandage, the comfort, the light. But along the way, we confuse pain with passion, chaos with chemistry, and attachment with love. The truth is, love was never the problem. The lessons were, and the hardest part about these lessons is that they don't just shape your relationship, they shape you. They change the way you see yourself, the way you trust, and the way you choose. When you finally understand that love doesn't destroy you, people's choices do, you stop blaming love and start respecting it. You stop seeing it as dangerous and start seeing it as sacred. And with that clarity, you begin to heal. You start to protect yourself differently. You no longer close the door to love, but you close it to anyone who confuses love with control, disrespect, or neglect. Let's talk about the 4 truths you have to know if you want to understand why real love doesn't hurt. Lessons do. You know, somewhere along the way we've been told that love is supposed to hurt. That it's normal for it to break you down, keep you awake at night, make you question your worth. Movies romanticize it, songs glorify it, and people repeat it like some kind of inevitable truth. Love hurts. But the more you live, the more you realize that's not true. Real love doesn't hurt, it heals. It's the safest place you can be. It's the feeling of finally being seen, of someone holding your heart as if it's the most precious thing in the world. The problem is, many of us have only experienced love through the lens of someone else's brokenness, and we've mistaken the damage they caused for the nature of love itself. If someone's presence in your life is constantly draining you, tearing you down, and leaving you feeling like you're never enough, that's not love. That's a wound with a ribbon on it. It's pain disguised as passion. Real love doesn't make you walk on eggshells, afraid of saying the wrong thing or expressing how you feel. It doesn't punish you for being human. It doesn't make you feel smaller just so they can feel bigger. Love, when it's real, is the opposite of harm. It's the place you go to heal from harm, and yet, so many of us keep blaming love for the times we were left broken on the floor. We blame love because it's easier than accepting the truth. The people we gave our hearts to didn't know how to hold them. There's a moment in almost every heartbreak where you ask yourself, was it me? Was I too much? Not enough? Did I love them the wrong way? That's the trap. Thinking that loving someone is the crime and that the sentence is heartbreak. But that's not how it works. Love in its pure form is never wrong. What hurts is giving it to someone who doesn't respect it, who doesn't know what to do with it, or worse, someone who takes it as a weakness. That's not love's fault, that's the lesson's fault, and I know it's hard to separate the two when your heart is still bruised, but this distinction will save you. When you understand that love is supposed to be a source of peace, not pain, you stop chasing the kind of relationships that keep you in a constant state of anxiety. You stop calling someone's hot and cold behavior passion. You stop mistaking intensity for intimacy. And you start recognizing the difference between someone who loves you and someone who loves what you can give them. Love is a mutual exchange. It's not a debt you owe. Think about the people who have truly loved you, not the ones who claimed it, but the ones who lived it. Maybe it was a parent, a sibling, a friend, or a partner who genuinely cared. You'll notice something about those memories. They don't hurt. They're warm, they're grounding. They make you feel safe when you think about them. That's because love, real love, doesn't leave scars. It leaves imprints of kindness, moments of understanding, and feelings of belonging. It's the lesson that was painful, not the love itself. Sometimes the hardest part about accepting this truth is admitting how long we stayed in situations where harm was dressed up as love. We remember the apologies after the arguments, the temporary sweetness after the pain, and we convince ourselves that the good moments meant it was love. But here's the reality: if the love you're experiencing only feels good in between moments of pain, it's not love, it's a cycle, and cycles keep you dizzy, off balance, and constantly chasing the next high. That's not healing, that's emotional exhaustion. Real love doesn't take away your identity, it celebrates it. It doesn't silence your voice, it amplifies it. It doesn't shrink you to fit into someone else's comfort zone. It expands to make room for both of you to grow. If you're constantly feeling like you have to fight for someone's affection, that's not love, that's survival mode. And survival mode is not where hearts thrive, it's where they slowly wither. I know that deep down you've felt the difference before. There's a certain calm that comes with being loved properly. You don't have to keep proving that you're worthy. You don't have to wonder if you're enough. You don't have to brace yourself every time they walk through the door, wondering which version of them you're going to get today. With real love you can breathe, you can laugh freely, you can speak without fear. That's what healing feels like. It feels like freedom. The reason so many of us confuse harm for love is because of the lessons we've been given early on. If you grew up in a home where affection was conditional, where love was given and taken away depending on how you behaved, you might grow up thinking that love is something you have to earn. If your first relationships taught you that love means jealousy, control, or emotional manipulation, then you might think that's just part of the deal. But here's the truth: you can unlearn those lessons. You can retrain your heart to recognize the difference between pain that's avoidable and love that's genuine. And the best part, when you start seeing love for what it really is, you start choosing differently. You no longer settle for someone who leaves you guessing. You no longer make excuses for disrespect. You no longer stay because maybe they'll change. You don't gamble with your heart. You guard it, not out of fear, but out of respect for the value of what you have to give. Love is meant to be a soft place to land in a hard world. It's meant to be the voice that tells you you're safe here. It's meant to be the arms that hold you when you're tired from fighting your battles. And yes, sometimes it will be challenging, sometimes it will push you to grow, but growth is not the same as harm. Growth is uncomfortable, but it doesn't strip you of your dignity. Harm does. Growth can make you cry, but it doesn't make you feel worthless. Harm does. Real love is the kind of discomfort that stretches you, not the kind that breaks you. If you've been in a love that hurt, I want you to hear this. You didn't fail at love. You experienced a lesson that looked like love but wasn't. You learned something about what you will and will not accept, and maybe right now you're scared to try again. Maybe you've told yourself you're done, but don't close the door on love because someone else mishandled it. Love didn't hurt you, they did. One day, you're going to meet someone who proves this to you. Someone whose love feels like a deep exhale, like a weight being lifted off your chest. Someone whose presence makes your inner world quieter, not louder with anxiety. And when that day comes, you'll finally understand what I mean when I say love heals. You'll look back at all the lessons that once felt like punishment, and you'll realize they were preparation. Preparation to spot the real thing. Preparation to protect it, preparation to believe in it again. So stop telling yourself that love is dangerous, stop repeating the lie that love is pain, start believing that love, real love, is the safest, most beautiful thing you can experience. And when you find it, you'll know, not because it makes you lose your mind, but because it brings you home to yourself. That is the truth, that is the healing, and that is what you deserve. You know, the more I think about it, the more I realize life doesn't send us lessons wrapped in textbooks or highlighted instructions. It sends us people, and these people arrive with their own smiles, their own charm, their own imperfections, and sometimes even their own storms. They don't show up wearing a sign that says, "I'm here to teach you something you'll never forget." They walk in like any other person might, expectedly, casually, sometimes even beautifully, and then they change you. Some of them will be the kind of change that feels like sunlight breaking through clouds. Others will be the kind of change that feels like a fire you didn't see coming until you were standing in the middle of the smoke. But either way, the truth is, every person you meet carries a lesson inside them, and not all of those lessons are gentle. In fact, the most transformative ones usually aren't. You meet someone, and at first it feels like a gift. Maybe they make you laugh in a way you haven't laughed in years. Maybe they see parts of you that no one else seemed to notice. Maybe they tell you exactly the things you've been longing to hear, and for a moment you think, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for. But sometimes what you've been waiting for isn't the relationship itself. It's the lesson it's going to teach you. It's not easy to accept that someone who hurt you was actually a teacher. It feels wrong, almost unfair, because why should growth come at the expense of your peace, your trust, your heart? But when you start to heal, you realize they were there to expose something you needed to see. Maybe they showed you the parts of yourself that were too willing to settle. Maybe they revealed how little you were asking for when you deserved so much more. Maybe they woke you up to the fact that you were repeating patterns you swore you'd never repeat. Here's the thing, people don't always stay, and they're not always supposed to. Some are just passing through, here to hold up a mirror you've been avoiding, here to point out a truth you've been too afraid to face. They might break your heart in the process, but they also break your illusions, and as much as that hurts, it's the beginning of clarity. It's tempting to label these people as villains in your story, to see them only as the ones who hurt you, disappointed you, left you. And yes, maybe in your personal narrative they did play that role. But if you zoom out, if you look at the bigger picture, you'll see that their presence moved you forward in ways staying comfortable never could. They made you question things you'd never questioned before. They made you see the cracks in your boundaries. They made you realize that the version of love you were accepting wasn't the version you truly needed. Some people teach you how to love better by showing you what love looks like when it's patient, kind, and consistent. Others teach you how not to love by showing you what it looks like when it's selfish, careless, and conditional. And while both lessons are valuable, it's the second kind that often leaves the deepest mark. It's the pain that etches the lesson into your soul. You see, lessons are rarely wrapped in comfort. They're wrapped in moments of doubt, in nights where you can't sleep, in conversations that leave you questioning everything. They're wrapped in tears you didn't think you'd cry and goodbyes you didn't think you'd have to say. And yet, without those moments, we wouldn't evolve. Without those moments, we'd keep touching the same hot stove, expecting it not to burn us. There's a kind of power that comes from realizing not everyone is meant to stay. It frees you from the need to cling. It teaches you to value experiences without demanding permanence. Some people are chapters, not the whole book. Some are a single paragraph, but the kind you underline because it changes the way you see the rest of the story. And when you accept that, you stop forcing relationships to last beyond their season. You let them end when they're meant to end. You take the lesson, thank it quietly, even if through gritted teeth, and you move forward. But here's the hard part. Sometimes the lesson is about you. It's not about what they did wrong, it's about what you allowed, what you ignored, what you kept excusing because you were afraid to lose them. That realization stings more than anything they ever did, because it forces you to see your own reflection in the pain, and it's not to blame yourself, it's to empower yourself, because once you see it, you can change it. You can raise your standards, you can strengthen your boundaries, you can start choosing people who won't need to teach you those same lessons again. Every relation, ship romantic, platonic, fleeting, leaves an imprint. Some imprints are soft, like a hand resting gently on your shoulder, a memory you can revisit with a smile. Others are heavier, pressing into your chest, making it hard to breathe for a while. But eventually, even those heavy ones teach you how to stand taller, how to protect yourself, how to walk into future connections with eyes wide open instead of blind hope. And let's not forget, sometimes you are the lesson in someone else's life. Sometimes you are the person who walks in and changes how they see themselves, how they treat others, how they value love. You might not even realize you're doing it, but your presence shifts them. Maybe they'll remember you with gratitude. Maybe they'll remember you with regret. Either way, you will have left them with something they didn't have before they met you. That's the cycle. We teach and we learn, often at the same time. So the next time you look back on someone who hurt you, try this. Instead of only asking, why did they do this to me? Ask, what did they leave me with? Did they make you stronger? Did they make you more aware of your worth? Did they show you a red flag you'll never ignore again? If the answer is yes, then they were a lesson. And while the lesson may have cost you time, tears, and trust, it also gave you something you'll carry into the rest of your life. Not every lesson will feel like a blessing at first. In fact, most won't. But over time, the sting fades and the wisdom remains. And one day, you'll be sitting across from someone who treats you with the respect, care, and consistency you've always deserved, and you'll think, now I get it. Now I understand why it didn't work with them. And in that moment, you'll feel gratitude for the lesson, because it led you here. That's why I say lessons come disguised as people. They're not labeled. They don't always arrive with good intentions, but they arrive exactly when you need them, even if you can't see it yet, and when they leave, because many of them will. You won't be left empty-handed. You'll be left with knowledge, with clarity, and with a better map for the road ahead. And that is worth something. That's worth everything. There's a certain kind of love many of us grew up believing was the real thing. The kind that kept us on our toes, made our hearts race, and had us feeling like every day was unpredictable. We were taught that love is supposed to be a rush, an intoxicating high, and that if it doesn't leave you dizzy, it's not worth it. But that isn't love, that's chaos, and chaos might be exciting at first, but over time it becomes exhausting. Real love doesn't keep you in a constant state of anxiety. It doesn't make you question where you stand. It doesn't have you second, guessing every word you say or every move you make. Real love is steady. It's the kind of connection where you can exhale instead of hold your breath. It's where you can be yourself, your whole self, without worrying that it will scare the other person away. When love is real, it's not about keeping you on edge. It's about helping you feel grounded. It's not about testing your limits, it's about respecting them. It's not about pulling you in one day and pushing you away the next. It's about standing beside you even when life gets messy. And yet, for so many of us, safe love feels strange at first. We're so used to associating love with uncertainty that when someone gives us stability, we almost don't trust it. That's because we've been conditioned to mistake emotional turbulence for passion. We think that butterflies are the ultimate sign of connection, but sometimes those butterflies are just anxiety wearing a pretty mask. The truth is, in a healthy relationship, your nervous system isn't in overdrive all the time. You're not riding emotional waves so high and low that you barely recognize yourself. Instead, you feel a sense of calm not because it's boring, but because it's safe. Safety in love isn't about never having disagreements. It's not about living in a fantasy where nothing ever goes wrong. It's about knowing that even when things do go wrong, the foundation between you is strong enough to handle it. It's about knowing you can speak your truth without it turning into a war. It's about being able to disagree without fearing that the other person will withdraw their love as punishment. Real love feels like this. You're sitting across from someone, maybe in the middle of a conversation that's hard for you, but instead of feeling like you're under attack, you feel understood, you feel seen. You feel like they're not just hearing your words, they're listening to your heart. That's what safety feels like. It's not fireworks every day. It's the warm glow of a fire that doesn't burn you, but keeps you warm. When love is unsafe, you start to shrink, you start to censor yourself, you walk on eggshells, carefully calculating what you say and how you say it so you don't trigger an argument or cold silence. You might even stop bringing up the things that matter most to you because you've learned it's not worth the fallout. That's not love. That's fear disguised as love, and fear will eat away at you until you barely recognize yourself. You deserve love that makes you feel secure enough to speak up. Love that encourages your growth, even if that growth means you change. Love that doesn't punish you for being human, for making mistakes, for needing reassurance sometimes. The right person won't make you pay for their past wounds. They won't project old pain onto you and expect you to fix it. Instead, they'll stand beside you, hand in hand, facing life as partners, not opponents. Here's the thing. Safe love doesn't mean there's no spark. In fact, the spark feels different. It's not the desperate high of chasing someone who's always out of reach. It's the deep warmth of being with someone who is fully present. It's knowing that their affection isn't conditional, that they're not just with you when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. Safe love shows up consistently without you having to beg for it. I've seen so many people confuse safety with boredom. They walk away from something healthy because they are addicted to the thrill of unpredictability. But the truth is, stability is not the absence of excitement. It's the foundation that allows excitement to thrive. When you feel safe, you're free to be playful, vulnerable, adventurous, and open, because you know you're not risking everything by being yourself. Think about it. When you feel unsafe, your energy is spent on survival. You're constantly scanning for danger, for signs that something's wrong. There's no room for real connection because you're too busy protecting yourself. But when you feel safe, you can focus on connection instead of protection. You can focus on deepening your bond instead of constantly repairing it after damage. The right kind of love will never make you question your worth. It won't dangle affection over your head like a reward you have to earn. It won't keep you guessing about whether or not you're enough. Real love says, you are enough right now as you are, and I choose you. And that's not just something they say. It's something they show you every day in the way they treat you. Safe love gives you space to breathe. It allows you to take a step back when you need to without fearing abandonment. It gives you the freedom to pursue your passions, to have your own identity, to grow as an individual without threatening the bond you share. Because in safe love, two people don't try to merge into one. They stand side by side, whole on their own, but stronger together. And here's the most important part. Safe love doesn't just feel good. It's good for you. It improves your mental health, your emotional resilience, even your physical well-being. It's the difference between a relationship that drains you and one that fuels you. It's the difference between feeling constantly on edge and feeling deeply at home. So if you've ever been told that love should scare you a little, that it should keep you guessing, that it should be an emotional roller coaster, let me tell you, that's not love, that's instability. And while instability can feel intoxicating, it will never give you the peace and fulfillment that safe love can. You deserve to come home to someone who makes you feel like you can finally put your armor down. Someone who makes the noise in your head quieter, not louder. Someone who doesn't just love the best parts of you, but also the messy, complicated, imperfect parts, and loves them just as fiercely. When you find that, you'll understand why safe love is the most powerful kind. Because it doesn't just make your heart race, it gives it a place to rest. When our hearts have been broken, it's easy to place the blame on love. We say, I'm done with love, or love only leads to pain. We tell ourselves it's better to keep our guard up, better to stay safe than risk getting hurt again. We start seeing love not as a beautiful possibility, but as a dangerous trap. But here's the truth. Love is not the enemy. Fear is. Fear is what convinces us to close the door on something beautiful before it even has a chance to begin. Fear is what keeps us stuck in patterns, stuck in memories, stuck in our own walls. The truth is, most of the time, it's not love that broke us. It's what happened in the absence of real love. It's neglect. It's manipulation. It's betrayal. It's being with someone who didn't know how to love in a healthy way and taking that as proof that love itself is harmful. But love in its truest form is not destructive, it's healing, it's grounding, it's the very thing we need to recover from the pain we've felt. The tragedy is that so many people never let themselves experience it again because fear gets in the way. Fear is clever. It doesn't always look like fear. Sometimes it shows up as independence. I don't need anyone. Sometimes it looks like high standards that no one can realistically meet. Standards designed not to protect us, but to keep everyone out. Sometimes it's disguised as logic. I just don't have time for love right now. But if we're honest with ourselves, many of these walls we build aren't about protecting our hearts from the wrong person. They're about protecting ourselves from the possibility of being vulnerable again. Fear thrives on past pain. It whispers, remember what happened last time. Remember how much it hurt. What if it happens again? And if we listen to that voice long enough, it becomes louder than our hope. We start avoiding situations where love could grow. We sabotage connections before they can deepen. We tell ourselves it's better to feel nothing than to risk feeling that kind of pain again. But here's the problem. When you numb yourself to pain, you numb yourself to joy too. You can't selectively shut down emotions. If you close the door to love, you also close the door to the healing and happiness it brings. Love asks for vulnerability. It asks you to show up fully without guarantees. It's not about recklessly giving your heart to anyone. It's about having the courage to give it to someone worthy, knowing there's always a chance things won't work out. Fear tells you that's too big of a risk. Love tells you it's the only way to truly live. I've met people who were so afraid of love that they spent years convincing themselves they didn't want it. They built careers, filled their lives with hobbies, surrounded themselves with friends, but deep down there was still a quiet ache, a space they never let anyone fill. And it's not because they weren't capable of love, it's because fear kept them locked in the memory of the last time they were hurt. Fear will keep you single when you want a partner. It will keep you in a safe but unfulfilling relationship because you're afraid to start over. It will make you push away someone who treats you well because you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. And if you let it, fear will convince you that you're protecting yourself when in reality you're just keeping yourself lonely. The truth is, you can't avoid all pain. Life doesn't work that way, but you can decide which kind of pain you're willing to risk. The pain of trying and failing will always hurt less than the pain of never trying at all. Because at least in trying, there's the possibility of something incredible. In hiding, there's only the guarantee of missing out. Love is not a guarantee that you'll never be hurt again, but it is the only thing that makes the risk worth it. Real love, the kind that respects you, supports you, grows with you, doesn't just happen by chance. It happens because you're willing to show up for it, and showing up requires you to push past fear. Think about the people you admire most. The ones who have deep, lasting relationships. Do you think they got there by avoiding the possibility of heartbreak? No, they got there because they chose to risk it. They chose to believe that love was worth more than the fear of pain. They chose to open their hearts, even when they had every reason not to. Fear will tell you that vulnerability is weakness. Love will prove to you that it's the greatest strength you can have. Because it takes more courage to open your heart after it's been broken than it does to close it forever. And courage is what leads you to the connections that change your life. So the next time you feel fear creeping in, reminding you of all the times you've been let down, I want you to ask yourself, am I making this choice because it's truly right for me, or because I'm scared? And if the answer is fear, remember this. Fear is temporary, but regret lasts forever. Love is not the enemy. Love is the thing that will heal the very wounds you're protecting. It's the thing that will remind you that you're worthy, that you're capable of connection, that you are still able to give and receive something beautiful despite everything you've been through. And yes, it's risky, but so is living without it. When you choose to move past fear, you give yourself permission to experience the best parts of being alive. You open the door to laughter that feels like sunlight, to late night conversations that make you feel seen, to moments of tenderness that remind you why you took the risk in the first place. Love will ask you to be brave. It will ask you to step into the unknown, and fear will be there trying to hold you back. But if you let fear win, you'll never get to see what was on the other side of that risk. And that, more than heartbreak, is the real loss. So stop blaming love for the pain you felt. Start seeing fear for what it is, the barrier between you and the life you deserve. Because once you push past it, you'll realize something powerful. Love never was the enemy. It was always the cure.